I've been doing a lot of talking to people in the community about the Hit Center. Because some of you probably know I sort of got really involved in the management of the Hit Center a couple months ago. And I really wanted to be successful because I like the idea, not to mention I wanted to help my business, which is HPT, and I want to bridge them together. So one of the things that I want to start hearing in the community, and one of the reasons I'm standing here, is I want the Hit Center to be a place where you go if you may have an orthopedic problem or if you're afraid that you're going to be injured. People know when they come to the Hit Center they're not going to be injured. And they're not going to be injured because the staff is educated about the body and about how to do exercises safely across a lifespan. And I also want you guys to be able to utilize the physical therapist that we have up here. If you've got a problem with one of your clients or if they have an issue, I want to know about it. And you can let me know about it either by coming to me straight and bringing me the client so that I can at least look at them and talk to them, or you can do it through Amy. But I want to know about people's injuries, if they have them before or if something has occurred during training. The fact of the matter is, injuries are going to happen. They happen to everyone. They can happen in training, but there's ways to make it so that it happens less often. And I actually had a physician tell me over Christmas that one of the things she had heard about the Hit Center was that she didn't want to come here because she had heard a lot of people had gotten injured here. And I don't know if that's just because she's a physician and she's talked to other people that are fairly well-to-do that have been clients here. People get hurt everywhere. But I want this to be the place where people come and they're here because they're avoiding injury, or they're afraid that they might become injured, or they have an injury in the past. Okay? So, first joint we're going to talk about is the shoulder. We're also going to talk about the thoracic spine. The thoracic spine and the cervical spine. The cervical spine is the neck. The thoracic spine is the area of the spine that your ribs connect to. Okay? So we're going to do a quick anatomy review. So you hear people talk about the rotator cuff. The rotator cuff is made up of 4 muscles. So this is a front view of the shoulder. Okay? This is the muscle belly. This is the tendon of the subscapularis. Right? You have muscle bellies that form into tendons because you can create more torque out of a smaller attachment area on the body. Okay? You're going to get attachment to the lesser tuberosity here. You've actually got the bicep tendon that comes up and it bisects the rotator cuff. Here's the back. You've got supraspinatus on top. This is the most commonly injured aspect of the rotator cuff, is the supraspinatus. And usually it is the back part of the rotator cuff supraspinatus where it forms into the infraspinatus as well. Okay? This is where the majority of rotator cuff repairs happen. Okay? This is infraspinatus here, and then there's the little one, teres minor. Okay? On top, you see this bone here? This is your clavicle forming into your acromion coming off. So your AC joint is your acromioclavicular joint. This is where a lot of injury can happen, is at the AC joint of the rotator cuff, because you can impinge or run the rotator cuff up into some of these bones as you're doing some of your exercises, which we're going to talk more about. Go to the next one for me. Okay, so here's your AC joint, right? Here's your acromion coming off. Here's your clavicle. I'm not going to bog you guys down in all of these ligaments because they're really, frankly, not that pertinent to what we're doing as fitness training. You've got the biceps coming up here, like we talked about, supraspinatus tendon on top. This structure right here, where you see the 1, 2, and 3, those are glenohumeral ligaments. But basically, it all forms into a shoulder capsule. The ligaments are thickenings of the capsule. And when you think about the capsule is what keeps you, when I externally rotate like this, what keeps me from dislocating my shoulder is the shoulder capsule gets tight, right? If somebody dislocates their shoulder, they rip through their capsule and they will tear the labrum and the capsule. The capsule is essentially like saran wrap that goes around the shoulder, okay? If people have really tight saran wrap or capsules around their shoulder, they're more susceptible for injury. That's why flexibility is really important in the shoulder, is to prevent injury of the rotator cuff. Okay? Now, to totally switch gears and go in the other direction, your adolescents, your 13, 14, 15-year-old girls and boys, they don't have tight capsules, they have loose capsules. So they suffer from something we call hypermobility or instability of the shoulder. Again, they can be very injury prone. These tend to be your overhead athletes. Your throwers, your swimmers, your tennis players will have instability issues. Okay? And I don't expect you guys to diagnose this, but I expect you guys to be aware of what pathology, meaning what injuries can potentially occur in what age groups. Okay?
What about somebody like Shannon Rutherford? Because she's so mobile. Did that include her shoulders too, or just her hips?
Typically, it is global. It is global throughout the body that people are hypermobile or hypomobile. Right? Hypo meaning not as mobile, hyper meaning excessively mobile. But in your excessively mobile people or your hypermobile people, this is the joint where the problems happen, because this is the most mobile joint in the body. Okay? So, I told you I was going to talk about the spine, and I'm going to talk about the scapula. The scapula is a really important piece of the shoulder, okay? Because without a stable scapula, you do not have a stable platform for the ball and the socket to sit in. If the socket, which is connected to the scapula, is all over the place, then the humerus is all over the place, and now you're going to get breakdown or injury in the shoulder. Okay? So the scapula needs to be staying nice and tight on the thoracic spine, and you'll typically run into these scapular issues or scapular weakness in, again, kids and people that are really rounded with poor posture. Really rounded with poor posture means that my scapula has really come around my thoracic spine, and my scapular retractors, which are the ones that bring your scapulas together, those muscles are so long that now they're at a mechanical disadvantage, right? So they can't control the shoulder and the scapula like we need to. So you see these kids, they come in, you know, the typical high school kid that lifts by himself in the weight room. He's got huge pecs and biceps for the girls, and he never pays any attention to his back. This is the kid that's going to have shoulder problems. Okay? Any questions about the anatomy starting off? Okay. If you will, go back to the rotator cuff. One more. Alright. So, the rotator cuff is designed to hold the ball in the socket as your deltoids, your big deltoids, are your movers for the most part. Your rotator cuff moves, but its main principal job is to compress into the glenoid. Okay? So if you're not getting good compression, you're going to get too much humeral motion, it's going to cause an injury. Okay? So you need to make sure that you're doing things safely and that you're doing some rotator cuff style exercise throughout some of your stuff, which is built into the program, but it's something to be thinking about. Okay? And if someone has had a rotator cuff injury in the past, or a shoulder injury, you need to be thinking, okay, what things are really going to put this rotator cuff in harm's way? And that's going to be overhead press stuff, because it's a lot harder for the rotator cuff to work overhead than it is down here. Okay? So be thinking about that with some of your middle-aged clients. You know, talk to them. Have you had a shoulder problem in the past? Yes, I've had a shoulder problem in the past. And then you may go to the Derek or Amy and say, hey, this person's had a shoulder problem in the past. You think we could cut out shoulder press, military press, incline bench? And the answer is always going to be, yeah, we can vary it. There is a million exercises to hit basically any muscle group that you want. There are some standard ones that we use, but they can always be changed and tailored to what people's injury or past medical history is. And I don't expect that you guys are going to know it to a T. That's not your job. That's my job. So if you have a problem, either through the directors or bring it straight to me. I'm happy to see them. And it's not going to be, I'm going to have to make a big visit. I'd be happy to just check them out real quick and make sure things are okay and give you some ideas of what things we want to avoid. Okay.